Hello everyone and welcome back to Color Spotlight. For those of you who are finding my channel for the first time, Color Spotlight is a series in which I explore watercolor pigments, how they interact with other colors, and demonstrate using them in a painting. Today we're going to be taking a look at Perylene Violet. Perylene colors have been used since the early 1900s as vat dyes and were first sold commercially as pigments in the late 1950s. They are non-toxic, usually light-fast, transparent, highly staining, and non-granulating colors, but are limited to a range of scarlet, red, maroon, purple, and green. Perylene Violet is made from PV29. It is a deeply valued, desaturated purple color. The intensity of this color varies by brand, but like we saw in the Perylene Maroon video, this color does undergo a large drying shift, losing saturation and value as it dries. Also, like we saw in that video, this color did show a lot of white speckles on both Canson Moulin de Roy and Arches watercolor paper. These white spots lessen when you add additional layers, but it is something to note. While its cousin, Perylene Maroon, excels at mixing flesh tones and muted secondaries, I think Perylene Violet really shines when mixing dark, moody greens, purples, blues, and teals, which we'll all take a look at in just a little bit. I have 3 brands that we're going to be taking a look at today, plus a bonus color. First up, we have the version that I'm most familiar with as it's been on my main palette for several years. I got a tube of it quite a while back and it's just been on there ever since. This one is from Schmincke and its hue is rather dull and desaturated compared to the colors we will see. Daniel Smith's version is similar, though a bit darker in its mass tone. These were the only 2 versions that I had seen up until late last year in 2019. Since they are so similar, I just decided to use what I had on hand, which was the Schmincke, before buying any new tubes of it. Somewhere during that time, though, I also found out about a color called Naphthalide Maroon from Daniel Smith, made from PR171. It's very similar in hue to Perylene Violet, but more vibrant, so I switched to using that for a little bit as well. Fast forward to late last year when Roman Szmal released their watercolors on Jackson's, making them available around the world, and this color from them was really remarkable. I remember it came in a mislabeled pan and it took me quite a while to work out if it actually was PV29 or some version of like a really dark quinacridone violet. However, at this point, I'm at least 98% sure after looking at their official color charts and other content creator videos here on YouTube that this is indeed Perylene Violet. It is a beautifully saturated version and much more vibrant than the other versions of this pigment. For the color mixing portion of this video, I did use Schmincke's version because it was on my main palette and I was most familiar with using it. Later on, I will use the Roman Szmal's version for the demo painting so we can see the wider range of versatility. It was interesting coming up with colors to mix with Perylene Violet for this video. I usually try to pick a wide range of colors to really show off everything that these colors can do, but you won't find red or yellow on this chart. I wanted to focus on what I think this color is best at, and that is dark, moody mixes. You could mix this color with just about any blue or green and get a really fun range of colors, but I had to narrow it down to about 4 for this video. First up is Cerulean Blue. This version is from M. Graham using PB36. This combination creates purplish grays, dusty blues, and muted sky colors. I think this would be a really stunning pairing for some really soft landscapes. Next up, rather than a standard ultramarine or Indanthrone, I decided to go with a little bit of a funkier color in this spot, Sodalite Genuine from Daniel Smith. While you'll get much more saturated purples mixed with the other colors I mentioned, the Sodalite adds a granulation that creates interesting dark shadow tones. For the next pairing, I was going to use Phthalo Green, but then thought that is another color that I use pretty often in this series, so instead I decided to go with Ultramarine Turquoise, which is made from both Phthalo Green and Ultramarine Blue. Overall, it is a teal hue that sits somewhere between the two. This pairing has a very subtle granulation that creates dark sea greens that I really love, and it also mixes the most neutral gray in this selection of colors, though any other color with a similar hue will yield similar results. Next up is Perylene Green. These two mixed together create a quick black or gray that leans a bit on the warm side. However, in its mass tone, it would be almost indistinguishable from a solid black watercolor. While I would have been happy to do all blues and greens on this chart, I wanted to show you a little bit more versatility with some earth tones. First up, I wanted to show off Raw Umber, as this does create a more subtle version of Raw Umber Violet mixtures, which I'm also a big fan of. The Perylene Violet substitutes for the Quinacridone Violet, and you get a more subtle range of color. Finally, we have Transparent Red Oxide, an earth color in the reddish-orange range to round out this otherwise cool palette. This pairing creates a variety of brick reds and muted earth oranges. I think a limited palette with Perylene Violet, this Transparent Red Oxide, the Cerulean Blue, and maybe even the Sodalite Genuine would make for a really fun palette to play with for desertscapes or other similar landscapes, particularly around dawn or dusk. To finish off the page, we have a wet and wet dispersion, a layer test, a lifting test, and a softening off demonstration. This version of the color from Schmincke has moderate flow, glazes reasonably well, and is mostly staining. I accidentally did use too much water for the softening off, but if you remember back in the Perylene Maroon video, I did the same thing, and it didn't bloom under those conditions, so just keep that in mind, that this one is a little bit more sensitive. In that video, I keep mentioning the Perylene Maroon. I also theorized that the scanner that I use has a big issue with Perylene colors in general. At first, I thought it was just the Perylene Green, as any painting that I make with Perylene Green always has to be adjusted with scanning and editing afterwards. And then the Perylene Maroon did as well. This Perylene Violet was no exception and also had issues. It scanned a lot more red than it did purple, and I had to adjust it to make sure that you could see what it actually looks like in person. If you reproduce or digitally archive your work, please keep that in mind, as you may need to make adjustments before printing your image. For the demonstration today, I tried to find animals that naturally lean towards Perylene Violet, but I was kind of uninspired by what I could find, so ultimately I decided to paint a raven using a more whimsical color palette. I was originally going to use the Schmincke's Perylene Violet along with like a Phthalo Green and maybe a Sodalite Genuine, but when I decided that I wanted to use the Roman Schmalz because of the vibrancy, I wanted to use another color I had on that palette. I decided to use Ocean Blue, which is a mixture between Phthalo Blue and Titanium Gold Ochre. When Perylene Violet and Ocean Blue are mixed together, they create a gorgeous, instant, dark, moody tone that can lean either more blue or more purple depending on which of the two is more prevalent in the mixture. I was really pleased to see that I could get 3 distinct tones in this painting between the Perylene Violet, the Ocean Blue, and then the two of them together. I approached the painting by first painting the highlights with the Perylene Violet on its own as an underpainting. So during this whole first stage, that's what you're seeing me lie down. Next, I go in with the Ocean Blue and try and focus on the mid-tones of the painting and put in that blue color in those areas. Finally, to get those shadow colors, we go in with a mixture of the two with this really dark, moody, black type color. And since I had to mix this up a couple of times, sometimes it leans more blue and sometimes it leans more purple, and I really like that differentiation within those darker colors. As you see this painting progress, after the main areas are blocked in, I'll go back and forth between the two colors on their own and the darker color in between, trying to blend the different areas of the painting until everything is well harmonizing with each other. This isn't a particularly amazing painting of a raven, nor is the overall range of hues vast, but I do feel like it shows off what Perylene Violet does best, in my eyes anyway, and that is, of course, these dark, moody tones that we have been talking about. It has started raining pretty heavily here, and I hope that I can get through this conclusion without the background noises being too distracting. I hope that you enjoy watching the rest of this painting play out, and that you enjoyed this episode of the Color Spotlight series. Thank you so much for being patient, as I know these videos keep taking forever to get to you. Do let us know in the comments below if you enjoy using this color, and if so, what your favorite mixing combinations and applications for it are. If you want to learn more about creating custom watercolor palettes, how to handle water control while you're painting, or painting animal textures, be sure to check out my classes over on Skillshare. I'll include links in the description below that have a free trial to the platform if you are interested in checking that out. As always, a very special thanks to my incredible patrons, not only for their support of me, but also this series directly. And thank you for watching this video, for liking it, commenting down below, and if you'd like to see more in this series as well as other watercolor content in the future, do be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification. Between the last video and this video, I had people commenting that they weren't getting notifications and there was some weird stuff going on there. So just give that a double check if you want to be notified for the next video. Thank you guys again so much, and until next time, my friends, happy painting. Hey everyone, I just wanted to jump on here real quick before we wrap up today's video. It is October 27th. I just got back from early voting and I wanted to remind you all, if you haven't already participated in early voting or mail-in voting, make sure you get out to the polls on Tuesday. It is so, so important. Fingers crossed, and I'll see you next time.